Welcome everybody.
Today we're going over leather care types.
Full grain leather.
And then we have top grain.
Splits are kind of a way. Suedes are a little bit more, I would say, finished.
Let's talk about genuine leather.
Bonded leather is kind of, nubuck's an interesting type of leather.
Exotic leather, which I'm sure a lot of people can guess.
Vegan leather.
What is vegan leather? These are all the leathers that we carry, or at least a lot of the leathers that we carry from our tanneries that we use, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then as I understand it, these are work leathers, and then these are more heritage, which would be those casual dress boots that you would be purchasing, right?
Oh yeah, more in that line of you want something that looks good, either going to church, going out on a Sunday, whatever it is. These are kind of probably be the ones that you're going to be reaching for, get more characteristics and things out of that. That being said, you can get a really sharp looking boot with any of these.
Right.
So it just kind of depends on what you want and what your main purpose is for it.
Okay. Now, I know that you said when you were talking about sourcing that we're very careful about where we source, who we work with. These are the three, representing the three tanneries that we prefer. Can you kind of tell us about each one and then why we choose what we choose?
So technically it's 4 tanneries.
Okay.
So these are going to be kind of our primary work leathers that we got. Got some max support stuff here. This stuff is usually going to be a little bit drier. You can kind of tell too, it has a little bit more of an alpine tannage. A little bit rougher, but these ones take a polish really well comparatively. Do have some things on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
Did treat some stuff prior. You can kind of tell.
So this is the treated side?
Yeah, this would be the treated side.
And this is the untreated side.
We did a little bit of a mishmash of kind of the products that we have in general, things that saturate the most. Things that give it, I would say, the best water resistance for what you're looking for would definitely be the oil that we sell. So that is going to soak in the best. And then with the grease too, those are probably going to be the best for when it comes to conditioning. But those ones are always going to be a little bit drier, a little bit stiffer. Then when it comes to the 64 series, these guys have a little bit of pull up to them because they got some oils put in there. I would say pretty dang well similar to the Max Support. A good bit softer, going to be a little bit easier for break-in. That's why we call it our easy break-in. These guys have a great aging process to them, and they're really comfortable. They don't take too long to break in, and they're just as tough as the Max Support.
Okay.
You get down to the Weathershield. These guys are going to be pretty similar to the 64 Brown. These ones definitely a good bit softer than what you would see with Max Support. Still rigid enough to give you good support. But the cool thing about these is there's this top layer impregnated with silicone, so that's why it's called the Weathershield. Very, very water resistant. So these 3 guys are going to be coming from Seidel.
Okay.
Whereas this guy down here, he's kind of a mixed hybrid. He's a work leather, but also you could classify as a heritage leather depending on who you ask.
Okay.
This is coming from Law Tanning.
Okay, gotcha. So Seidel for here for our work leathers.
Oh yeah.
Law tanning for this bison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great leather. Beautiful stuff. Really tough, durable. Kind of in the, I believe, 7 to 8 ounce range, maybe even a little bit thicker. We've tested some pieces before that have been just a little bit thicker.
Okay.
Get a really good pull up with them. Bison's great when it comes to just an overall work boot, and that's primarily because Bison is technically a little bit more puncture resistant. With this sort of patterning that you get a little bit more flexibility as well.
Okay.
So it's not going to be as stiff. If you need something that needs to be a little bit more workable, this is what you're going to be going for, comparative to, I guess.
Where this is definitely, definitely more stiff. You can feel that.
Yeah, you could probably make a plate out of this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Very nice, okay. So we have Seidel, we have Law Tanning represented, and then we move over here to Horween, correct?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So this is going to be our Chromexcel that we're getting from Horween. This is the British tan. Great pull up on there. So these ones a little bit more polished, a little bit more refined. You get a better overall semi-gloss to them. Don't take nearly waxes as well, and that's probably because of all the oil that's already in there. So if you were to apply anything on there, it kind of sloughs off a little bit. You can still see it takes some saturation of the oils, but comparative to that, I bet you if you brush that off, it'd probably look pretty dang identical.
Okay.
Then what we have down here is going to be the natural wax flesh. That's going to be very similar to the Chromexcel. Pretty much the same treatment as what you would see with a Chromexcel. The other side to this, though, is that it is with the flesh side. So flesh side's always going to be a little bit more durable when it comes to cuts, scrapes, things like that. You know, primarily just because this top layer has that water resistance and that lock-in, but when you take a knife to it or you do a little gouge or a little cut, there's not really any good way of repairing that comparatively. Whereas this, take a little brush, put it in there, it's all good and set up.
Okay.
Then down here, we're at our Predator series.
Okay.
These are very, very similar to what we have with the wax flesh and the Chromexcel. It's just these are a little bit more sanded down or a little bit more refined, I would say, in terms of the process that they do on it, and that's order to get that matte color. But man, it provides a great pull-up.
Yeah, it does.
You get a lot more characteristic out of these guys.
Okay, moving on from Horween, who is the last?
This is Wickett Craig. This is some of my favorite stuff personally. So there's going to be 3 main categories when it comes to Wickett Craig. Let's start at the English Bridle.
Okay.
English Bridle we've had the longest. It's a little bit drier on the top surface.
Oh, yeah.
Very well polished. This stuff gets very, very shiny after it ages. So English Bridle is going to be a little bit more dry. Then we get up to the Latigo.
Okay.
These ones are going to be basically the English Bridle, but well saturated in their oil drums. Pretty funny, they're the same base leather. You can kind of tell
Yeah, you can see that, huh?
with the pull-up right there. But this one was well saturated in the mix of oils that Wickett Craig uses.
Okay.
The tallows and fats. A good bit more water resistant. Kind of my preferred one out of the Wickett Craig leathers. That's primarily just because, I mean, the color variation that you get with it is super. The next category that we got is the double stuffed. I love these, the amount of variety and colors with these.
I'm making my boot out of a double stuff that we have that is coming out soon. I'm so excited.
To the eye, it's probably the most appealing of them. The tan Latigo and the double stuffed natural in terms of overall feel and temper.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a difference. You probably get a little bit more water resistance when it comes to this double stuff.
Okay.
But, I mean, comparative to each other, they're pretty dang similar. It's almost like a jump in line from the driest, a little bit more saturated, a little bit more oil. And the reason this is called double stuff is because they do that same process for the Latigo, but twice over. And it's on a harness leather.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Thank you for that rundown. Now we have the separation of work leathers, we have heritage leathers, and we have conditioning and care supplies on the table. Can you give us a rundown of maybe what we would do differently for work versus heritage, or how we might use these items to help our leather?
So primarily for work, if you're using it for work, you're going to be using either the grease, and we always offer a little thing of grease in any of the boots that we send out. And that's a good little startup. You usually don't have to use that stuff for a while though, and then the oil. Oil's really good if you're really trying to get into areas in terms of either squeaks or just trying to soften things up and you want the best penetration. You're going to be doing oil.
Okay.
Primarily, I would put these 2 guys with all the work leathers.
Okay.
And that's because these can kind of affect color a good bit more comparative to any of these other conditioners. And we did a little bit of a test. You can kind of see too, at least with this one. Leave this guy right here. So you see that one is from the oil. That's on Predator Orange. So that darkens it up a good bit. You still get the pull up, but comparative to like where it is standard.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and that would be the grease on that one right there. So that kind of gives you an idea. So these things, best at doing the conditioning, making sure that things are going to be a little bit more waterproof, more water resistant.
Okay, so these will help the leather stand up a little bit better over time.
Absolutely.
That'll help reduce squeaking issues. Does it help with break-in?
Oh yeah, a good bit. Doing subtle touches in the light areas that you need it to
Okay.
is going to do you wonders.
All right. Now, can we use these things on bison? Is this going to be specially?
Yeah, so
treated?
you can use it on bison. So the thing with the law tanning bison is that it has a really nice polished finish to it. So you'll get things like scrapes, scratches, and things like that, and it'll kind of dig into the surface a little bit.
Okay.
You'll get that lighter color. If it's primarily a work thing, these 2 guys.
Okay.
For sure.
And then
And that's just to seal it if you have any scratches, things like that.
Okay. And if this is a heritage thing, do we still recommend those two, or would there be
You
different?
could hop on
Yeah.
over to using some of the stuff that we use for the Chromexcels
Okay.
or the Wickett Craig,
Okay.
because it just kind of depends on, they all do the same thing in a sense,
Sure.
but in a different meaning of transportation. So.
Okay. So jumping over to these heritage leathers, what would be different about this process then with these?
Well, these ones you're going to be more concerned with how they look.
Okay.
So you got to really keep in mind with color variation, what you're putting on there, if it's going to really deeply affect what you do. Stuff that affects the color the least if you're really liking the color, because most people get the boots because they really like the color on it, and they condition it because, well, they don't want to get too dry and they want to take care of it. So with these ones, I'd probably avoid using any of this stuff. I mean, my first boots I got, I just dumped a bunch of it, and they were Predator orange. They kind of look like walnut now.
Okay.
They're still really nice.
Yeah.
And really well, like, how would you say, really well protected. The thing is, though, is they don't look like Predator orange anymore. Everyone always says in the office, like, that's not Predator.
It's not Predator orange, and you're like, it is.
That's not Predator orange. So.
Okay. Did we do anything to treat these?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So can you explain kind of what the differences are?
So these ones are going to reflect kind of the products that we have up here. So in general, you'll be able to see grease darkens it up.
Okay.
Not too bad. Good polish off of that. You'll be fine. Definitely a little bit more saturation. The Smiths, all natural, really great stuff. I mean, really, really good stuff. I prefer this mostly over anything. It's super easy to apply, super easy to warm up, easy to wipe off any excess. We get into these other conditioners too. The Saphir Cream. I really like this stuff if it's like a quick sort of touch up on things. You can go a little bit crazy with it if you just drench the whole thing, but this hardly affects color. You get a little bit more of a shine too.
Yeah.
In general. A little bit more of a polish. And that's,
Yeah, and it feels a little bit different.
a little bit different.
Yeah.
So if you want maybe a little bit more of a sheen to things that are a little bit more matted down, I'd probably do this. We've got some other conditioners. Venetian Shoe Cream, that one's a good one. I know a lot of people use it for Chromexcels and things like that. I primarily use this guy just because of that sheen that you get, and I feel like it's easier to work with comparatively. And then we got the Big Four. This stuff doesn't affect the color as much as any of the other things, but in terms of conditioning, it doesn't do much from what I've at least experienced or used myself. And so that's kind of the reason why it doesn't affect color that much.
Okay.
There's not going to be a thing out there that you're going to be able to put into the leather that's not going to affect the color.
Sure.
But I'd argue this stuff, the Saphir Cream and the Smiths are going to be the highest quality that you can put in there. I'd probably put the Venetian Cream over the Big Four.
Okay.
But ideally, I would get the Saphir and the Smiths.
Gotcha. So then for reference, this is untreated, and then these are the different products you just showed.
Right, and that's going to be the grease, the oil. That one's going to be the Smiths. The Saphir gives a really good sheen to it. That's going to be there we go, the Venetian Cream right there. And that one's going to be the Big Four.
Okay. Very nice. Okay. So your preferences for heritage, Saphir or Smiths?
This stuff is easy to kind of put on a brush, do a quick around, and it's all done and set, and you get a really great polish. And this stuff is a little bit more maintenance to it, but it has the basic good ingredients that you need, and doesn't have any extras to it.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything else that you would mention for these, like the double stuff, any kind of different way to treat those, or are they kind of the same?
They're pretty dang similar. So if anything, when you're taking a look at these guys, a lot of the times too, a lot of these leathers are going to have enough oils in them that they're going to be able to take care and repair themselves. So if you get like, say, a scratch or a buff or anything like that, say on this guy, if I were to do that, it's pretty apparent. But if I do a little bit of warming up, you can already see it's kind of going away. And that's just with the oils in there. Oh, I just scratched again doing that. And that's pretty much gone. And that's if you're like, see like a really like scratch or anything like that, taking either like a hairdryer or even just warming it up, rubbing it.
Okay.
That's going to pretty much take away most of your problems, especially Predator Orange, because that stuff scrapes easy and you just give it a little bit of a rub.
Okay.
Darkens up, pulls the oils back in there, and they'll going to be able to repair themselves.
Like I just learned like a really secret pro tip.
It's a little bit of a secret tip.
It really is?
Yeah, anything that really gets like just a line scratch or anything like that. Yeah, I think the only one that might have a little bit issues with that would probably be the English Bridle.
Okay.
And that's primarily because it's just more dry, so there's not as many oils in
Right.
order to pull it up. If you rub on this one, it'll probably get more shiny, more luster, if anything.
Whoa, that blows my mind. Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna scratch stuff and then rub it out now.
Realistically, I wouldn't really use this stuff until you need it. So most of these leathers are really, really good when it comes to lasting a while. I mean, I've taken a hose to 64 brown when I had a pair of boots in 64 brown, and they hold up extremely well. Seidel does some amazing stuff to their leather. So kind of depending on what you're doing, I'd say most average time would probably be like a month in when you get them really well worn.
Okay.
If you're having some tough spots, a little bit of the oil or even the grease will help you. You can do that internally. So you don't have to do necessarily anything external.
Okay.
We're going to get into a whole process of that in future videos.
Okay, perfect. Love that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing your tips for the products that we have. I'm really excited to actually learn how to do it and get in there and get my hands dirty. So looking forward to that segment very much. And as always, appreciate your expertise in the room with me. And thank you so much for watching.
Absolutely, and likewise. It is a fun process, all the boot care. It's kind of one of the fun parts about taking care of something that you're invested in. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Morgan.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll see you next time.